This show is a Phonic Media production.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about some real-world use cases for NFTs. Tune in. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in around the world. And welcome to this installment of Understanding Crypto, the website. It's not a website. Hello, good start to the show. The podcast, that's because I was looking at a website. The podcast designed to help you to demystify the weird and wonderful world of Web3. Now, we realise that if you're listening to this in real time, which is going to be sort of like mid-June by the time this comes out, we are living in unprecedentedly turbulent times within the world of crypto. I saw a brilliant post today, actually, which was giving everyone a bit of context of what's actually happening in the micro as opposed to the macro, but we'll go into that in another episode. But what we thought we'd do in this particular installment is go through some real world use cases of deploying tactics for making your NFT valuable, or NFT use cases. By the way, my name's James Burt. Thanks for tuning in as always. His name is Captain Crypto, aka the captain of the crypto ship here at Understanding Crypto. We are listened to in 98 countries around the world, and we're still an iTunes top rated podcast in the investment section. We were in the top 10 last week in Ghana. Big shout out to the Ghana crew.
Ghanese, is that?
Ghanaian.
Okay. Hello, Ghanaians.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our Ghanaian family.
So I've got 16. I was going to say 15, but I've got 16 real-world use cases of NFTs. Some in existence, people are actually doing.
Okay.
And some that are conceptual.
Okay.
This is from a collection of a number of blog articles and posts that I've read over time. And I'm like, oh, that could be a good use for an NFT. And I've collated them into one central place. So there's 16 potential use cases for NFTs once all the hype has disappeared. Once you've realised that you've paid a load of nonsense for a piece of art that's not worth anything at all, and the community that you think you've bought into is just a Ponzi scheme. When you wake up and realise that, NFTs could generally, and as you hear, and we'll try and get, because we want to keep these episodes under half an hour, and actually we've got a hard stop in terms of time for this as well, haven't we? So we're going to rattle through these 16 real world use cases, and I believe some of these will change. And if you ask me to look at 5 years ahead, fast forward 5 years, most of these I think will be in operation in some way and will be interacting with NFTs. Non-fungible tokens, you know what those are because you've listened to a number of podcast episodes, without us even knowing that we're doing it.
Okay.
And I think that's how prevalent these are going to become. They're going to be part of our everyday existence, a bit like a username and password is in our existing worlds that we live in. Every day you're going to be interacting with an NFT. So I've got, in no particular order, 16 use cases. Do you want the first one?
Go on. Number one.
Fashion and wearables.
Yes.
Okay. So there are a number of fashion brands that are catching on to this in the NFT world. And a number of high-end and mid-end brands are releasing various NFTs. Adidas, Balenciaga, Burberry, Gucci, Nike, Prada, Ralph Lauren, all have released a form of NFT in the last year and a half. Some of those are just test the water type NFTs. You know, Gucci's one in specifically was somebody bought a $4,000 dress, a $4,000 bag, and in return they got the rights to that bag in the metaverse. Should the metaverse ever happen?
Yeah.
Ralph Lauren have opened a store in Roblox. And they've done that back in 2021. So you've got these fashion brands that are playing around with the fact that an NFT can be used in some way to give digital ownership of an asset or enhance their brand value in some way. Could you imagine, like now on eBay, you never know whether you're getting an original handbag or not. But say that handbag had a number that was attached to an NFT, and that there was a way of listing that handbag on a marketplace and verifying that it was real. Like proof of ownership, basically. That's just one simple use that could be done on the blockchain, because the blockchain, what it gives you is digital trust and digital proof, like humanless proof. If that could occur, that would be a massive enhance to fashion brands and wearables in some way, shape or form. So watch out for brands, fashion brands that are jumping on that fact.
Tends to be the high-end ones who are already having a go at this, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're looking at ways in which they can do it, but it fits. We've touched on this in the previous episode as well. Their ideal client is active in crypto marketplace. So therefore it's a brand match. It's like, our clients most likely have a digital wallet. They're most likely active with crypto assets. So therefore let's play in the party.
Yeah.
But watch out for way fashion brands are using NFTs. I can't go into all the notes because we've only got we're trying to cap this at half an hour. So, and you waffled for about 6 minutes when we started. So, saying hello to everybody in Ghana. Not that we don't want to thank everybody in Ghana.
Well, that's not a good use of time. Well, you've changed.
So yeah, keep an eye out for fashion brands that are using NFTs to drive revenues within their brand. Another one that to note when it comes to fashion. So the Bored Ape Yacht Club, there's a fashion brand called the Hundreds.
That's right, yeah.
Which does high-end hoodies and sweatshirts. They created a brand of merchandise or a range of merchandise for the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which sold out in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. I've been seeing it on like Twitter when they've been getting like packages, so like an ape coin, almost like a pin badge kind of model, and then is the brand called Bored? I think it's just a board, and he's got the logo of the ape on the packages. It's quite cool what they've done with it.
So yeah, watch out for collaborations around fashion and how how the fashion industry is, because they're somewhat leading the way when it comes to brands using NFTs.
Yeah,
fashion brands at the moment.
I guess there's that. It kind of makes sense, that crossover between real physical world and digital asset.
Watch brands.
Yes.
Box and papers of a watch, NFT.
Yeah.
And you get the digital rights to wear that in the metaverse if it ever comes, if this metaverse place that everyone keeps aspiring to ever develops. If it does, you get to wear your Rolex watch in the metaverse and you've got a digital proof of ownership of it. Brilliant use case. So keep your eye out for that. Number 2, DeFi, NFT lending and finance. So this one, we are where we are with the crypto bear market that's going on. But let's assume we get out of that and it changes and crypto goes back to where it was. There'll be lots of people that are getting a haircut right about now when it comes to crypto. But potentially you live in a world, and we live in a world, where 90% of the new generation's wealth, I read this as an article which was really interesting, 90% of the generation below us, their wealth will be stored in digital assets. In NFTs, you have some people have bought an NFT at the price of mint, like 1 ETH, and
that's their net worth.
Their net worth is the value of that NFT.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine, but how do you pay the bills off the value of the NFT? How do you pay the rent? How do you buy a house? How do you do all of that stuff? You can't. If this
you have to liquidate the asset at this point.
But if this was in the property world, say you bought an asset being a property for £1 in 1970. That's now worth £500,000, the financial world is geared up to lend to you against that asset. They recognise that asset as a security.
Yeah.
So therefore you can release value in that asset. So there are already organisations doing this, and there are DeFi platforms doing this. But why can't we live in a world, and we are moving towards this, where if you own a CryptoPunk or a Bored Ape, that's your security for lending.
Yeah.
And that would be easy to do from a smart contract perspective, because the way smart contracts work, the lending platform could take ownership of that NFT. And if you don't, or you could keep the NFT in your wallet, but if you default on the payment, automatically, without anybody getting involved, that digital asset is transferred to the lending platform.
Yeah.
So now you are in a position where you basically don't need bailiffs, you don't need debt collection, you don't need any of that stuff to happen, because that can happen automatically. Scary for some to think of it like that, but it actually, from an efficiency point of view, it's really good, because you could, if your house was a tokenized asset, that token can be removed and given to the lender at any point. So the way NFTs can work with finance and tokenization of bigger assets or physical assets, and then how DeFi platforms can interact with those, I think there's going to be big gains, advances in that space over the coming years as well.
Yeah, 100%. Anything that requires certification, or like we've said it so many times in this podcast, haven't we? The digital trust. This is digital trust. Anything that requires an element of trust or authentication can now be done automatically.
Yeah.
And like I say, the elements of it with like a smart contract, you don't have to send someone to knock on a door and go, excuse me, we're going to have to repo your asset, because you could just take it by default because it's already written into the smart contract.
Okay, the physical asset is still there, but it's like, in the aviation world, in planes, 60% of the value of the plane is in the logbook of the plane.
Oh, really?
Like if you lose a logbook of a plane, or somebody repossesses a plane without the logbook, the asset, 60% of its value is wiped off, gone.
Is that right?
Yeah, because there's no way of tracing its
How many
history
out? Right. Okay. Yeah.
without the logbook.
Yeah.
So basically, nobody's going to buy that plane, and if they are, they're going to buy it at a far cut down value because they're going to have to do a load of work to overhaul everything to get it back to a point where they can certify it and say, right, that's good to fly from this point, and these are the start of the hours again. So you could live in a world where a combination of NFTs and physical assets could work in that way to underpin the value or secure
It's like
stuff.
with you mentioned it there, but like with your car, like your logbook of your car, or you drive it. I've had it recently. I've got done for speeding. Super annoyed. And still in 2022, they sent me a letter in the post which went to the wrong address because it was an old address. I've then eventually got hold of it. They're like, click this link to see the proof that you were the naughty person. There you can see me, smug as anything, smiling as the camera takes a photo of me going 8 miles an hour over the speed limit. Fine. If you were the person, yes, I was a person. Click onto this link. Please now fill in the paperwork and send it to us. Why is that the thing in 2022?
Yeah, well, it won't be. I reckon in 5 years, NFTs and blockchain will transform all of that type of stuff. Number 3, events and tickets. So there are already events that are starting to use NFTs in a creative way. When you buy a ticket, you get an NFT.
Yeah.
Okay? And the ticket is the NFT. It becomes a collectible, but also think about it one step beyond that. So think about the logistics of putting on a concert, for instance. Now, at the moment, if you're a band, an independent band, and you have a concert, you need to most likely hire a promoter to promote that concert for you.
Yeah.
Right. Then you need to hire various parts of the ecosystem that make up a concert. Now, that could be cleaning staff, it could be rigging staff, a stage, it could be audio engineers. You know, there's a whole repertoire of things that you need to make something like that happen. Well, what if we lived in a world where whenever a ticket was sold, automatically, because of a smart contract, the distribution of revenue from that ticket sale went to the designed allocation? So, i.e., the promoter got 40%, the band got X amount of percentage, the janitors got X amount of a percentage, the rigging company got X amount of percentage. So effectively, people are paid immediately on the sale of the ticket, as opposed to putting all of the risk with a promotion company or a ticket company and having that revenue sit in these bank accounts for long periods of time without people that really need the money to make the event happen actually getting access to the cash.
Yeah, because at this point in time, when you think about it, that's a very good point, actually. So the person who's buying the ticket is paid for the ticket. Their money leaves their account straight away and then sits in a sort of like effectively like an escrow account.
Yeah.
The only person who's getting paid is the bank until you need to distribute. And in a lot of instances, people are doing these 6 months. If you're doing a big festival or something, you're selling out tickets a year, 6 months in advance. That money's sitting there accruing 0% interest at the moment until you have to distribute the funds. And like I say, the allocation of the risk is then on the person putting on the event.
What if the funds were distributed automatically? Or what if when the ticket sales got to a certain point, an automatic settlement of monies was paid? So like you could all say, well, actually, you know, nobody gets paid unless we sell X amount of tickets. But the moment we reach X amount of tickets, everybody gets settled.
So that it pays for the venue, it pays for everyone automatically. Because what they do with a lot of bookings at the moment is the venues will hold the booking as like a penciled date, and then you've got an X amount of time to do it. So like I say, the contract could be like, right, when we get over 10K and we know that it's going to wash its face, then it will settle out, and then it could automatically do the booking, confirm the venue, confirm the... Yeah, that's clever, isn't it?
Like a smart settlement, which is what a smart contract's designed to do. Smart settlement. We're going to have to rattle through these because you've given me a time frame. Digital identity.
I didn't know you were going to be so good.
We've already touched on this, digital identity, but what if your passport, your driving license, the logbook of your car, all of that stuff was wrapped up to NFTs, whereby you didn't have to carry it anymore. You'd have a QR code that people could access your driving license. You'd have a QR code that people can access your passport.
You said for your medical records before.
We're going to come on to that one.
Okay. I'll save that then.
So there's lots of use cases for digital identity. And the way that can work with various utilities around the world. Now, there will be lots of people listening to this that are completely I'm guessing probably actually not, but there's a population of society that want to live off grid. So therefore, some of these use cases are not going to be best for them. And you can see why there would be resistance to some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But how much, in your example of your driving license and having to fill that out, if you're willing to take the hit, if you're willing to say, I was driving that car, therefore I should be punished and penalised for it, and I've held my hands up and I should do it. Well, that should be in the world where your driving license is an NFT and you can grant somebody access to that immediately. Your 3 points could be stamped on that, done, dusted. Your time starts tomorrow of the time ticking down of when those 3 points come off your license, because you've agreed to it. You've said
Here's
it.
the evidence. Do you agree? Yes. Bang.
You've
done.
accepted it within a click. That those points are applied to your driving license and on your record.
Yeah.
So
Which can notify the insurance companies, and then they could charge you more money if they needed to.
Frictionless.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the moment, we've got various humans sitting in various public offices, sending out paper forms, getting paper forms back, putting that information onto a system, creating more paperwork, more paper forms, and inefficiency throughout public service completely.
Yeah.
So digital identity and NFTs could, over time, transform that. Now, one caveat to say on a lot of this is that a lot of these are conceptual ideas, some of which I've thought of, some of which, like I say, I've stolen from other blog posts to combine this list. But some of the technology doesn't exist at the moment to allow this to happen.
Yeah.
So this is the concept of NFTs and what can happen in the future. So that's where we sort of are with this. Next one I've got here on my list is social media. What I mean by this is recording influence and verifying identity. I'll give you some examples. We live in a content world where now it is a really viable option, and probably the biggest option for most people coming into this world of business, that they have to produce content. They have to leverage multiple streams of income through sponsorship revenue, through producing content, through ads on their content, all of that stuff. But most people build up that relationship on one social media platform. So i.e. you might be big on YouTube, you might be big on Instagram, you might be big on Twitter, but you're unlikely to have a big profile across all of them. But what if you could leverage that profile together and you had an NFT that was your social media record? So these algorithms of all the social media platforms could look at your NFT record and say, actually, this person has done, behaved generally for the last 7 years very well. They've had really high engagement. They've had this, they had that. They've got this following across social platforms. And that could almost give you a score and say, that's your influence score of where you are. And therefore, we're going to pay you this rate of advertising, or we're going to pay you this rate of this. Now, that would need a tech platform to be built, but that's quite a good concept of if you could grade influencers based on their reach, their engagement, their following across multiple platforms, you'd be able to actually say to advertisers, right, now, because now somebody's getting paid for the influence they have on the world. So you're changing that whole model of the commodity where people become the commodity, and you're actually saying, well, look, that's a really effective influencer that's got high engagement in this area with this demographic, so therefore they should be sponsored, and we should put some revenue into them, and we should sponsor them to do this, this, and this.
Yeah, that's smart. That's very smart. A lot of the influencers out there go, no, don't, because I've paid for my followers on Instagram.
Yeah, but that instead of somebody going to a brand and pretending to have influence, there could actually be a real world way of saying, this person here actually is legit and has got some great influence with this type of market and this type of demographic in this sector. They should be sponsored.
Yeah. And it could be a third party platform that then brokers it to push it to multiple platforms. Very smart idea.
Next one, music. Now, many labels are already doing this. You've got Kings of Leon, which have released an album based around an NFT. Shawn Mendes, Grimes, Snoop Dogg, they've all dipped into the world of NFTs and using NFTs to drive fan engagement and giving fans small pieces of the pie based on their engagement, which I think is a really good way. So driving community is huge, but also just having that ability to engage your community or activate the community a bit more can be done via digital ownership of assets, which is NFTs. So, there's, like I say, that's fashion and music are already quite ahead with the use of NFTs, and so keep an eye out for that as well. I think the way in which we buy music, the way in which we interact with music, and the way royalties are distributed across the whole of the music sector is going to change over the next 3 to 5 years, big time, because the same model of distribution of revenue when it comes to an event ticket could happen in the world of music distribution and music rights. So every time a song's played on a streaming service, the publisher gets X amount of money, this person gets X amount of money, the licensing gets this amount of money. That can all happen automatically with smart settlement. Yeah,
there's a platform actually that I heard on another podcast which I was checking out called Audius. I don't know if you come across this. Audius.co it is, and it's basically it says unleash your music, discover and stream up and coming artists, and it is exactly what you've mentioned there. It's almost like the easiest way to explain it is, and probably badly, is a Spotify but with Web3. built into it. So at the moment, and I think this is going to be one of the biggest areas to have a revolution quite quickly. At the moment, like for example, if in this building, if you played music, you'd have to have a PRS and a PPL license. And they would look at a couple of things. They look at your square footage, and then they look at the second point they look at is the importance of music to the business. So they could say, right, for example, you're an office block, so you're going to play some like panpipes, jazz in the common areas. It's not that important. It's not integral to the overall offering of the business. So therefore, it's 100,000 square foot. We're going to charge you X amount, which, by the way, is probably going to be circa 60, 70 grand based on this building size. If this was the same size but a gym, they'd say, well, that's much more important. Music is integral to the business model of the company, so it's going to be £250,000. But then realistically, what's happening for every location that is playing that music, it's going to be filtered down. If you've got like a latest summer dance banger, chances are that Paul McCartney is still getting more than his fair share of the PRS licensing rights, because they don't actually know exactly what's being played. They do it as a percentage of overall, I think, input to PRS and PPL. So, for example, the top dogs continue to get paid like the top dogs, if that makes sense, and the little people are still not going to get their cut of it. Whereas with this, like, why can't they get a cut? Why is it not easier to get a cut? It should be. It's all digital.
Sorry, there was somebody looking through the window trying to get our attention for some reason. I don't know why. So I just went, no, we can't.
Is it a girl?
No, it's not. It's the building manager.
Oh, okay.
There you go. If you're in Ghana and you're listening, the building manager was trying to get our attention.
He's probably saying that go ahead here for a job interview.
Digital proof that something's played, everything, that type of stuff is perfect.
The challenge that you've got with those sort of platforms, though, is that you've got to get the talent to use it. Now, Spotify is a crap deal for artists in general, but it's where the attention is. You know, they've got 250 million users of Spotify. So whilst you're going to get paid 0.00001 cent per stream, there's a lot of attention there. So Audius or someone like that has got to get artists firstly to make content worth going to, and then they've got to drive a lot of people there. They've got people like Deadmau5 who are using it and that sort of stuff. So they've got some sort of artists they can leverage, but it's going to be a hard shift to move away. You know, PRS and PPL and them sort of setups have been around for 70, 80 years. The
concept of NFTs and blockchain could revolutionise all that over time. Next one, healthcare. We don't need to say too much about this, but if your medical records could be an NFT that was easy to access, easy to transfer, easy to read, all of that type of stuff, that could be using the technology of NFTs. That could just improve that industry hugely, even if it was just, patient data that moved around hospitals or data to do with blood, or, all sorts of stuff could be easily stored in NFTs, could be stored on your watch, could be stored on your phone and easily accessible from various places. Could you imagine if you could open up Apple Health and access your medical records via Apple Health?
Yeah.
And anywhere in the world, no matter where you are, you could do that. Well, that could be possible in theory with blockchain and NFTs. Now, there are already companies working to develop that, because that's, biotech companies and medtech companies are working to try and develop that. So that's one use case that we could see revolutionise. I've got proof of ownership and physical assets, which we've touched on as well, but that's just tokenization of physical assets. So the deeds to your house, the logbook to your car, the paper to your watch, and your box and papers for your watch, that type of stuff. So tokenization of physical assets to prove authenticity, I think is a huge space as well. I think it was Nike, and we touched on this with fashion, but I think it was Nike. Nike have removed the sale of all goods from any marketplace. So you can't list a Nike product on any marketplace, or any marketplace.
Oh, really?
Is like, well, any new products, so Amazon and stuff like that, no new products are sold. That's because they can't combat the piracy issue.
Right.
But what if you bought a pair of trainers and the ownership of that trainer was verified by an NFT? That could prevent that and help them in that area.
Yeah. So, I suppose they can't stop the secondary market for the time being, can they? Because if you own the trainers, you own the trainers. They're yours to resell if you want to.
No, you can't stop the secondary market, but that digital proof of ownership, which is easy to happen. Every time somebody bought a new pair of shoes, an NFT is minted. And
then eventually, in enough time, I guess like with a lot of these other sort of proofs of ownership, if you don't have the paperwork for something, if you don't have that digital trust and the value of, it's almost like with OpenSea, if there's NFTs that haven't been through a platform like that, which show the activity on it, it massively reduces the value of the item, because you can't prove, there's no there's no paper trail. No digital paper trail.
We'll rattle through these because there's some of these we've already, but this is a big one. Supply chain management. So already Coca-Cola, Microsoft, IBM all use blockchain to manage their supply chain.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they all use blockchain. Also, Maersk, Maersk, you know, the big shipping company.
Yeah.
Maersk. So they have a system called TradeLens, which is based on IBM's blockchain. So IBM have got their own blockchain, and Maersk's tracking system is built on IBM's blockchain. So effectively, they're already using blockchain to speed up their supply chain operation, to provide this digital proof, to provide this digital trust, i.e. this container arrived at this dock at this date and time, and it was scanned in and it was there. That's already living and sitting on the blockchain. It has been for some time. So how NFTs probably is the one step into that, where like the delivery note could become an NFT, and when that container arrives at the dock, an NFT is minted and sent to the person as proof that that's arrived at its destination. So how long before our delivery notes or those emails that we get from DPD or whenever you get a delivery is actually an NFT minted on the blockchain that's digital proof, trust, with the history of where that package has been.
At the moment, I think people are seeing NFTs is like a digital version of the Mona Lisa. It's going to very quickly become the receipt that you get out of the till at Tesco's.
Yeah, it's a smart contract that can execute whatever you tell it to execute.
Yeah.
And it's automated settlement of something. So this happened, do this. If this happens, do this. If this happens, do that.
We're having a mare now, aren't we?
Now we've got the fire alarm that's decided to. It's a fire alarm test every Tuesday.
There you go.
So yeah, it's this is what happens when we both live busy lives. We try to cram in. We've got 30 minutes to record a podcast. Let's get it done.
Just go.
So yeah, NFTs are going to be, automated settlement. If this happens, do that. That's the really powerful part, which people are missing. But that's the part that's going to revolutionise so many sectors and industries. Education records is the next point on here. You probably got given paper records for your certificates for your education, your GCSEs, and you can't find them. You don't know
record
what they
of achievement. Do you remember that in the little red book?
What if that's all logged on? What if everything from your SATs as a 7-year-old, all the way up to your degree is logged on a digital record, which could be an NFT?
Which then, when you're applying for jobs and stuff, you just link your NFT wallet to,
and that's your proof of education.
Then you can, it's good.
That's one. Next on the point of that is digital CVs. What if your CV was digital? Where your actual record that we all make up on LinkedIn that says I worked for this company for 6 years, when you worked for them for 6 months. Yeah. Those you do that.
You weren't quite as integral to that team success as you made out, was it?
But what if that was just? What if you remove the human play a little bit and it was fact, and it was on a blockchain, and it was on a digital employment record?
Yeah.
Really powerful. Would speed up the hiring process, would transform all of that stuff. Memberships, well, we've already spoke on this one a number of times in this podcast, but your gym membership, your golf membership, your members club, membership to virtual communities, all of that stuff can be gated very easily already with NFTs. So I think you're going to see that develop a lot more over time. When you buy a membership card to a members club, by default you're going to get an NFT, I think, or what's working in the background is an NFT which gates certain content, which gives you a digital asset that you can then resell and hand off that membership to somebody else, as opposed to just getting your membership card and that's it. So there's a lot to come from memberships and NFTs, and the way the creator of that NFT can be compensated for the sale that happens on the secondary market. So there's a lot going to happen in the membership side of things with NFTs.
The secondary market we'll have to do a different episode on that, because we definitely do not have time for that right now. But the secondary market is so very interesting in this space, because initially on first look at it, you're like, well, why would you want to be able to give the person who buys your thing the option to sell it in a secondary way? But like Gary V's, like VeeFriends, for example, the reason why they were done at such a low cost point was, one, he wants to get more people into the marketplace, but two, he knows that it's the secondary market that's really going to drive and derive that mega value. And he's got a piece of that pie in the secondary market as well, because the smart contract dictates it.
I think he earns more a day out of his secondary market for his NFT sales than he does his whole entire business empire.
It's something like $70 million a day, isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Ridiculous. He's on his way to buying that football team or baseball.
That's
baseball
right,
team he wants to buy.
Yeah.
Loyalty programs. This is my next one. So Coca-Cola recently auctioned loot boxes to their fans. The loot box was an NFT which included digital clothing that could be displayed or worn in the metaverse platform Decentraland.
Oh, really?
So they've engaged their community and activated their community and rewarded them for loyalty via an NFT. But what if you took that one step further and when you transacted with your coffee shop, the record of that transaction was logged onto an NFT? What if that loyalty was portable between brands? So what if you just had a global loyalty card that a consortium of brands recommend or recognized, so your Uber score profile was logged onto that loyalty score, which could be recognized by British Airways, which would be recognized by Amazon as you being a good customer, which could be recognized by eBay as you generally being a good person. What if that reputation and loyalty could be shared across all brands via one like loyalty reward program? And that could work with the backing of an NFT and blockchain behind it, because it's that digital proof and it's that automated settlement.
Yeah, 100%. Almost like a digital Nectar card.
We've given people like 15 business ideas in this podcast
we
alone.
should copyright this. By the way, none of this is financial advice. It's all copywritten, so don't use it.
Next one, which I think is a big one as well. I come up with this one all on my own. Product warranties. So have you ever been in a situation, because I was recently with my Hoover, and it's funny because my Hoover was broken and I was swearing at the Hoover and my wife collectively because she always breaks it. Well, the kids always break it, but she delivers the message to me, and then therefore it's always my responsibility to fix it. Like, it's broken, you fix it.
Yeah.
So I was venting my concerns about the general arrangement of how that works. And straight away that popped into my head was like, an NFT could solve this. So you buy your Hoover. So in my case, it's a Dyson Hoover. You buy your Hoover from Dyson, right?
Hoover's actually a brand name. It's a Dyson vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
I worked with Dyson once, and I took a young junior account executive in who kept calling it a Hoover, even though she'd been told 4 times by the brand manager it's not called a Hoover because they're our competitor.
Okay. Well, there we go. So what if your Dyson or your Hoover, whichever one, or your washing machine, when you bought that, an NFT was minted on the blockchain, and that was your record of purchase. Because now, when you try and claim, I had a TV go wrong recently. You try and claim through Samsung, when did you purchase it? Where did you purchase it from?
Yeah.
You know,
did you send in the paperwork for the warranty?
How much warranty did it have?
Yeah.
Right. Now, I know they are all steps for the supplier and
to not have to pay out.
To not have to pay out. I get why that works in that way, but that's not good for us as the consumer. So if the brands recognise that, and there's space for somebody to revolutionise that product warranty setup. Yeah. So a brand could go, right, you bought that TV, immediately that's been purchased. They recognise the purchase taken place, and NFT's minted. That comes into your digital wallet. That's your warranty for that particular appliance. It goes wrong, everything's on the blockchain, the purchase is there, you can claim on the warranty automatically. That would be a good use for it. Now, we've said on all of these, there are a number of steps in technology that need to happen before that can happen. One of which, the biggest one, is probably there's different types of contracts, smart contracts, and different protocols and different blockchains, and it's difficult to be portable across all of them. So when we fix that, or the industry fixes that interportability, being able to easily transfer and operate across a number of blockchains, that's going to make a lot of this stuff so much more easier to develop and much more mainstream, because now you've got this ability to, it doesn't matter whether somebody's got an Ethereum wallet or a Polygon wallet or a this wallet or that wallet, all versions of NFTs can be displayed or stored in those wallets. So technology will catch up to this, but there's a hell of a lot of use cases where, like, just small little tweaks to daily life that could be just completely taken away from us by the use of an NFT.
Yeah, 100%.
And the final one that I've got here, which we sort of touched on, but that's product authentication. So we have touched on it, haven't we? So
it was cars and watches and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Did you buy it? Yes, I did. Do you own it? Yes, I do. And it's a genuine, authentic product. So yeah, there we go. That was 16 use cases for NFTs in the real world. Once all the hype disappears and goes away, how are NFTs going to change our life? There we go. 16 ways.
16 ways. Well, hopefully you have enjoyed that. We rattled through them as quickly as possible. As always, we're trying to make this as tactical in the real world as possible because we understand the world of Web3 is a little bit weird and wonderful right now. So we try and bring it back to basics and make some semblance of understanding of it for you within this podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show. If you have, please feel free to give us a 5-star review wherever you download your podcast. We'll be back again for another installment very soon of Understanding Crypto. Ta-da!
Bye for now.
This show is a Phonic Media production.